Hello and welcome to the next devotional in this study, and I do apologize because it has been a few weeks now, but there's so much going on in my life currently, and I'm hoping that once I graduate everything will kind of settle down and I'll be able to get into this a little bit more, especially considering that once I graduate I'll be turning in my 2 weeks notice at my job so that I could do this a little bit more often. And my plans with this channel is I'm actually going to start doing kind of like a Christian gaming, almost. And I'll just be like playing like cute little cozy games or horror games, and it just really just depends on what you guys want to see. And maybe I'll have some people in these videos with me, but it really just depends at the moment because everyone's really busy and I'm working most of the week now. And it's just like really hard to figure out when I'll be able to. But my plans is that at least once a week, hopefully, I'll have a gaming video up, which currently I haven't been able to edit mine that I just recorded yet, which if you want to see me do them live, you can go to my Twitch channel, which should be linked in this channel. And I'll try to link it down in the description below, but I haven't had a chance to edit the current video that I have recorded because it's about 2 hours long. So I'm going to try and shorten that down to at least an hour because a lot of it's just me getting confused, to be honest. But that's just my plans for this channel, and to help be an inspiration and to help show you that wherever you are in your walk with God, you can still continue to grow. And with this channel, I want to help that. And I hope that throughout this meeting we'll be able to speak and connect a little bit more through this video. And I don't know if anyone will be joining me today in this video. If they do, it's probably going to be somewhere random throughout because it's currently 2 o'clock and that's when I have scheduled the meeting, and no one has joined yet, which is perfectly fine in my standards because we're all busy. I've been busy the past few weeks. And I feel awful about it because I really should not be that busy and I should have more time with God. But I'm just hoping that I'll be able to work something out and I'll be able to do this more often. And I'm hoping to do like late night streams on my Twitch if you want to check it out. I don't know when I'm going to have my gaming video up yet, but really just depends when I have time, because today I'm going to try and have time for it, but I'm not 100% for sure at the moment. I know later tonight I will be having time to stream, probably more like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Today's April 25th? Yeah. So hopefully I'll have this video up by this evening. And I'll be able to work on it. So I hope I'm able to do more with this channel. I really do, because I do find so much joy in doing these videos, and I found a lot of joy in doing the stream, even though I was exhausted that previous week that I did that stream. So I'm really not talking as much as I should, and I'm not really showing as much excitement, but I'm planning to get better on that. But yeah, that was just my little quick catch up on what's been going on and why I haven't been uploading in a while, and my future plans for this channel. Anyways, it's about 2:05, so I'm going to go ahead and get on with this lesson. So if you're not aware and you haven't really watched my previous videos, it's over a book that I got off of Amazon, Winning the War in Your Mind. And it is a really good book. In all honesty, I just haven't really had a chance to look at it over the past few weeks because, like I said, I have been really busy, and that's not an excuse to not get into scripture and not to learn more. But I am trying to do better, and actually this chapter really convicted me on how I can do better. So let me get to the page and we'll get started. So we're in chapter 4 because this is like the 4th video, and I've been doing, really I should have been doing it in parts because it is very long and very difficult to do within a week, especially when you're slam packed throughout the week, and I understand that. but we're doing it by chapters, and we're on chapter 4, crossed wires and circular ruts. So basically what he's talking about is how in the beginning of the chapter, he gives us an example on how he got himself a car when he was younger, and how and how he wanted to put like a stereo in it. Well, he ended up doing so, and funny enough, his music only came on at night, like his radio. So he was a little confused, and he's like, what's going on here? So, after a little while of driving his vehicle, he realized that the radio only came on when the headlights came on. So he realized he crossed some wires and ended up like that. And so, and here it talks about how we cross our wires and how we can move on past that, and how we can uncross our wires from these bad habits and move on. So he asks us some questions that we kind of relate to, which I related to a lot throughout this. Why does it seem like our lives aren't working when we need them to work? I feel that so much, because whenever I was younger and I just really wanted to do something, nothing ever seemed to work out in my favor, and I'm just like, something wrong with me? Did I do something wrong? But that's not the case. Why do we lack the power to live the ways we want? And we ask ourselves that all the time, don't we? Why can't we do what we want to do and just live like that? Well, it comes down to the point where we're just like, you want to live how you want to live, and there's no stopping that, really. So we can't really do that either. Why do we often make so many irrational and self-defeating decisions? Why do we? If it destroys our self-esteem, like, for honest, I'm lazy, and I'm trying to get out of it, and it's really hard. Like, it's really difficult. And in here, I will go a little bit more deeper into it and put my own examples in here, as he did in this book. But I'm lazy, and it defeats me. It defeats me physically and mentally, and it's hard to move past it. Why do we try so hard to change but end up doing the same things we hate? I have tried time and time again to change the laziness that I live in, and it's hard because I always go back into it. Well, he says here, we have crossed wires. You've seen it in yourself, right? I mean, why do you commit to stop arguing with your sibling, then keep arguing with your siblings? Worry nonstop even though you know it's a waste of time and makes you sick. For me, that's a lot, because whenever I'm running even slightly behind on something and I'm running late, I start to freak myself out, and I give myself a panic attack, literally. Like, it drives me insane to be late for anything. Exaggerate to impress others even though it's not the kind of person you want to be. I feel like that relates to so many out there about wanting to be more like others, so you pick up on their personality, pick on the traits, the way they talk, and so you kind of turn yourself into another version of them when that's not truly who you are, and so you're defeating yourself, and you're killing yourself in this process of wanting to be exactly like them, because we're each our own person. We each have differences. We each like the things we like or hate the things we hate. But above all, we should stick to the commandments and the laws that God gave us, and just be who you know He created you to be. And in today's society, it's really hard to say that. I don't really know how to describe it, because everyone just wants to live by the ways of the world and what the world say, okay, but we can't do that. As Christians, we cannot live like that. And we need to stay strong in today's society and put our foot down on the worldly manners that they want to instill in everyone. Because that's just not who we are, and that's not how we should live our lives, because we know it's wrong. Scroll on your phone for hours instead of talking to your family members who are sitting only a few feet away. Now, because I know several people who have tried this, and personally I have tried to notice it a little bit more. If you're at a family reunion, or you're just hanging out with your family during a holiday or something, or during a dinner, like, if you live in a household with your family, you obviously have food together, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Why is it that when you put your phone down and you truly look around, everyone has their head in a screen and no one's talking one-on-one? Or if you're hanging out with your friends and you're eating, you guys just start scrolling on social media, don't you? And I am guilty of it as well, but I'm trying to put my way out of there because it's a rut. It's not healthy. Sure, screen time is healthy in dosages, but not all the time, and it really depends on what you're doing. Because if you go out of your way to spend time with someone and you're just scrolling on social media the whole time, that's not spending time with them. That's spending time with yourself. And that's not how we should live our lives. And you have crossed wires doing this. And we all do. The reason we make these poor decisions is because of how our brain works. So we need a solution that works with the way we think. We have to not only recognize the unhealthy patterns, but also figure out the underlying problem. Stop the car, crawl under the dash, and find out what went wrong. If we want to win the war in our minds, we have to be willing to rewire our thought patterns and rewire our brains. And what I just said was all out of this book, because he makes so many interesting points that I just can't describe how else it feels because I have to read them out, because I can't describe how it makes me feel, because it does touch me very deeply on how he describes everything, on how we live our lives, especially as teens. But you'd be stuck in a rut. And on this next part, that's what we're talking about, is being stuck in a rut. And here he goes on into the example of Alaska and how there's basically 2 seasons, winter and July. And in July, all the snow melts and the roads get muddy, and so people drive in those. Well, they drive on the muddy roads, so then the mud starts sinking into those trails, and so you have ruts. And he goes on to say that in these ruts, you can basically just choose one, and once it gets deep enough, you can let go of your steering wheel, and you're still stay in that rut. And so he goes on to go into more of a scientific basis with this, and I really appreciate that, because I feel like not only is this battle spiritual, it's also scientific, because our brains are wired that way. That's how God created us to be, is to wire our brains to develop these habits. Because he created us with a choice, whether we'll choose to follow him or the world. And that is how he made us. We'll always have a choice on what we decide to do. And so then he goes on to tell us about how our brains work and how we produce neurochemical change in our mind, and our brain redesigns itself around that thought. The brain is like the command center that directs the parts of your body through neurons, and they link together to create messages. This same message sent multiple times will create a neural pathway. The presence of a neural pathway makes a thought easier to think. It makes it easier for your body to send that same message again. So once we get into the habit of something, whether it's good or bad, our brain automatically starts sending us those thought processes into that habit, because we done got used to it. So what we need to do is we need to break that habit, and we need to stop listening to what we say and what our brain is telling us to do with those bad habits. If it's a good habit, then good on you. But if it's those bad habits, like laying around, watching inappropriate content, any of that can be a bad habit. Junk food, I'm guilty of snacking, but I'm trying to get my way out of it and be a little bit healthier. Because I found myself in the rut of eating whenever I'm bored, because, I don't know, I need to do something. And I was bored, so I'd just snack. And that's not healthy, and that's not how we should live our lives. So he goes on to the example of his dog Bandit, and how when they let Bandit out, he'd run in a circle in the same area, and it would create a path or like a rut. But he goes here, in a similar way, repeated thoughts create paths in our brains. Again, neural pathways that are brain ruts. These ruts are often carved deeper by the bundle of nerves at the base of our brain known as the reticular activating system, RAS. The RAS sifts through millions of pieces of sensory data being sent to our brains and groups them according to relevance and similarity. If the information will keep us alive, prevent problems, avert danger, or bring pleasure, the RAS is activated. If your brain system for filtering through all the data in your life and allowing you to focus on what's most relevant and ignore the rest. Our RAS also utilize our established beliefs to screen incoming information. This is part of the reason we so often get what we expect is called confirmation bias, a term coined by Peter Wason, a cognitive psychologist at University College, London. Confirmation bias is looking for and liking information that supports things we already believe or value, which can include interpreting any new information according to those beliefs. It's a definition of being stuck in a mental rut because it is easier than seeing things from a different perspective. And for me, what I think that means is we like to stick to things that we've always done, and we don't really care for change. And we should be open to certain kinds of change, especially if what we're currently doing is causing us to be more depressed, to have anxiety, to take us down deeper into that level of self-neglect. And right here it says, what is bias? The word bias comes down through Old French and means something like a slant or slope. But the way we use this term today often comes from an old lawn game like, excuse me if this is wrong, Buckyball? I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, BOCCE, called bowls. In the game of bowls, the balls aren't perfectly round and are weighted on one side. When rolled, these balls don't roll straight. Skilled bowlers can factor in the natural bias of these balls to get nearest to their goal. We all have some natural biases that cause us to roll towards some things and away from others. When we recognize our biases, we can account for them and still get near our intended goals, but when we pretend we are without them, we'll be continually frustrated when we can't get things to roll straight. And then he goes into the victim mindset. And in all honesty, we each have even just a slight bit of that mindset, because that's just who we are, to be completely honest. And if you're thinking you never get a chance to succeed or that no one loves you, you're training your brain to look for evidence that support that certain thing that you are believing at that point. Because let's be honest, when we believe something, we look for things that support that. Even though if it's not right, like for instance, in the worldly manner, a lot of people believe things that us as Christians do not believe, and so they even look into the Bible for things that support that, even though they take it out of context and it's not true. And because your brain is designed to look for patterns and create neurological pathways, they help you keep thinking the things you keep thinking and doing the things you keep doing. So since we are already in that habit, we want to continue doing that since it's easier than breaking it and starting something that's good for you. This is also why thinking new thoughts or trying new things is awkward the first time. Remember when you first tried to ride a bike or play the piano or do long division? You thought you'd never get it, but as you do that thing again and again, it becomes effortless. Except for maybe long division, but you know what I mean. That's all. That was a little bit humorous when I read it, because I still struggle with doing that without a calculator, to be completely honest. It takes me a hot minute, because when was the last time you did long division without a calculator? It's been since elementary school. And the saying, practice makes perfect, makes even more sense now, doesn't it? Especially since when we keep practicing something, it starts to carve a pathway in our brain that makes it easier for us to do that certain thing. Creating and reinforcing new neurological pathways, new ruts, is hard work, but there's a tip to make it easier. Sleep on it. Sleep isn't just something you do during math class or boring sermon. Scientists think sleep might be the key to consolidating memories and learning into our brains. That's why staying up all night to cram for a test is a bad idea. I have a friend who does that all the time, and I tell her she just needs to rest, or she's going to end up burning herself out, and that's the honest truth, and I hate to tell her that because I love her very much. But nonstop studying can really burn you out, and it can really create a rut for you that's really unhealthy. And sure, it's an important test, but is it more important than you? Than caring about your mental health? It's not. A test will come and go, but you're staying here. And in my opinion, I feel like we should focus more on being healthy and living the way that Christ commanded us to than staying up all night and studying for a test. If you want to actually remember what you've studied, you'll study right before bed, then get 8 or 9 hours of sleep. But how does it all work? Imagine learning as taking notes with a pencil during class. The things that are important to know you trace over again and again until the pencil line is dark. But he even mentions here about doodling while you're taking these notes, and I'm really bad for that. For doodling when teachers tell me to take notes, so I do what they tell me to and I put down what they want me to, but then I start doodling and I don't really pay attention, so then I'm just writing down stuff. Your notes are covered in doodles, and you realize it's not as useful a study tool as you were hoping. So what do? You erase what you can. Soon your doodles are gone, replaced with little bits of eraser, but the notes you traced over and over are still there and much easier to see now. Because for me, whenever I do that, I take more time in studying the doodles than I do studying the notes, to be completely honest, because studying is kind of boring, and looking at random things that you just did is less somehow. I don't quite understand it, but that's just how I was. Sleep is the eraser that takes away the unimportant information. Repetition of thoughts will lay down the neural pathways. Getting enough sleep will keep those pathways clear, making it easier to reinforce them. Alright, sleep habits aside, all repetition of thoughts, good or bad, creates and reinforces the formation of neural pathways. Thinking or doing something again and again eventually becomes effortless. God created neural pathways to be a good thing. When we repeat helpful thoughts and practices, they create helpful ruts that keep us moving in healthy ways. But because of our sins, neural pathways can also be a bad thing. Why? The same reason you felt awkward the first time you... I'm not going to read the first thing because I don't think YouTube would allow me to. Thought of yourself as a victim who can never win, responded to a bad experience by going shopping and spending way too much money, passed along some juicy but hurtful gossip about a friend, or basically anyone. Feeling uncomfortable, you thought, this is dumb, why am I doing this? You may have felt guilty, but you also got a little jolt of pleasure. That buzz is a chemical in your brain releases called dopamine. That little natural high is your brain's way of saying, I like that, let's think about that again, let's do that again. And it's just not the way we should live our lives. Sorry. Sorry, I have a little friend now. Salem decided that he wanted cuddle time. But when you find something that... I don't know how to really explain it. I'll go back on it once I figure out how to explain it a little bit better. And here he talks about how dopamine works. Dopamine is both a hormone and a neurotransmitter. That means it does a couple of different things in your body. When it works as a hormone, it triggers certain changes in your body. When it works as a neurotransmitter, it sends those buzzy messages to the reward circuits of your brain. Basically, when you do something your brain thinks will help it survive, it wants to encourage you to do it again. So it releases some dopamine. The more dopamine that gets released along that neural path or brain rut, the more reward circuits your body makes to feel those pleasurable reward messages. For example, when you eat junk food, your brain says, these extra calories will help us not die if we can't find food tomorrow. And it makes more dopamine for you as well as more connections to get more dopamine. The result is that you get more pleasure when you eat junk food, and you'll crave junk food more often, which can easily lead to addiction. And I struggled with that with junk food. And I'm cutting myself off really from junk food a lot here recently, and when I feel like snacking, I just get me a cup of water, and that helps. Or because we need to stay hydrated. Hydration is very good for you. Just don't drink too much, because then it's not really good for you, if that makes any sense. But here, the main challenge for you as a teenager is that while your body is making all these dopamine-charged choices about reinforcing what feels good, the wires linked up to the part of your brain that helps you think through whether a choice is good or bad isn't fully wired yet, so it takes longer to make rational choices. Sadly, by the time The part of your brain that thinks things through gets its message out there. You've already made a decision based on your dopamine receptors. And for us as teenagers, it's very much easier for us to rewire our brains than it is as adults. So if you're watching this and you're a teenager, go ahead and work on that process of rewiring your brain to be better, to create good habits, because then in the future you'll be able to carry those habits out more thoroughly, and it'll be 100% more natural for you to do so, since you'll already be creating those habits and cutting out the bad ones. Because your body craves for those hits of dopamine, you escaped into the glow of a cell phone. Or lied to a friend to get out of something. This time felt a little less awkward and you got another hit of dopamine. When you do something for the first time that you know is wrong, you feel bad about it, but then you also get like a hit of the dopamine, and then you want to crave more of that hit of dopamine, so you do that again, and it doesn't feel as wrong because your body tells you it's not because of the dopamine. The third time was much easier. Why? You're developing a neural pathway. Do the same thing enough and you will have a rut that you fall into automatically. You're designed to smoothly, efficiently create and fall into habits into neurological ruts. That is helpful for brushing your teeth, but that is harmful for rating your self-worth by constantly referring to social media. If you find yourself stuck in an unhealthy, unproductive ruts, there's some good news. God has given us a way out. And now he's talking about recognizing the rut. Now, in part 1, we worked on identifying the lies we believe. We agreed that lies can be hard to detect, so it helps to identify the problems that plague us. And when you think about it, you start to realize there are problems to your thoughts, and that sometimes they all have very similar conclusions at the end of it. We are wise to recognize these mental ruts we repeatedly travel that knock us off the path we know God wants us to be on. One of the most frustrating mental ruts for me is laziness. And I have been doing that for years on end, so it's really hard to get out of at the moment. But I'm trying to get out of the laziness. I'm trying to clean my room a little bit. I'm trying to take care of myself better. Because laziness, it really just killed my soul. Like, literally. Like, I felt like doing nothing. I just laid around, and I was good with that. I was perfectly fine with it. But now I'm trying to do more, to move around a little bit more, to do stuff. So here he uses his fear of finances, and how he knows that God will provide, but he still has an irrational fear of finances. And in all honesty, as we get older and we hear more about it, we probably start to get a little bit scared as well. Like, how am I supposed to keep up with all this money? How am I supposed to make this much money? So we need to identify the lie that we are making ourselves believe to keep us stuck in this rut. And that lie for me is, well, I'll just get out of it tomorrow. Well, let's face it, if we keep saying that, we're never going to get out of it. And we're going to stay in that rut. So we have to... So here he talks about... Hold on, let me find it real quick. What is your rut? I talked about mine, he talked about his. Mine was laziness, and we all have more than one rut. But my key one is laziness, because I have been trying to get out of it for a while, and I always keep falling back in after I get out of it, because that's what my brain's telling me to do, is that it's more comfortable to stay in it than to get out of it. Maybe when you were younger, your mom's answer for every problem was food. When you were a baby, she gave you a bottle when you cried. When you were a toddler, if you fell down and skinned your knee, the solution wasn't a bandage but ice cream. What does this lead to? Your brain created a neural pathway, give me a second. Neurons linked together over and over with the same message. If you are hurt or angry or sad, eat something. Comfort yourself with food. Now, eating is your built-in response to a problem. And I get it. When we feel sad, we really just want a pint of ice cream. And for me, that's mint chocolate chip. But it's not really healthy to do that anytime you feel sad. Perhaps on the first day of first grade, you were picked last on the playground for kickball. You try to make sense of that strange new feeling. What did it mean? Then your father didn't treat you fairly, which felt familiar, a lot like what happened at recess. All through middle school, your siblings was more popular than you. So you thought, perhaps subconsciously, this is kind of like what happened on that playground and with Dad. Then your parents told you they were getting a divorce. And then, what? No, why is this happening to me? My friends' parents aren't divorced. Bad things like this are always happening to me. It's like I'm cursed. What happened to you? Well, your brain created this pathway, this rut, which puts you into the victim category. And so now, whenever something bad happens to you, you're looking for something to victimize yourself with. But not everything is your fault. You have to realize that sometimes people don't really love each other, or sometimes they just don't like you, and you can't really do anything like that. If you showed them kindness and if you showed them love, you can't do anything more than that to make them like you more. So I say, personally, just forget it and keep treating them how you treated them to begin with. And if they don't treat you the same, then that's on them, and shame on them for doing that. Now I'm going to skip over these next few pages because I don't think it's something I should mention on YouTube, but I do recommend getting this book because I feel like if you read what he was talking about, a lot of you would relate yourself to it. And I found something similar to this on an app, and it's just not good for you, and I don't recommend it because it helped get me into that laziness by staying in my room all day, and it just took me down. And I'm not going to go into much detail with that because it's not who I am anymore, and it would be a while for me to get into all of that at the moment. But we need a wake-up call, and that's what he talks about here. And in all of these examples, and the ones that he put in this book, and the ones that I mentioned, wires got crossed. Normal life events occurred, fair or not, intentional or not, and we turned that opportunity into a bad connection that formed an unhealthy pattern that created a toxic rut. In the case of which he mentions his grandma's advice here, and what he's talking about is when his grandma would sit him down and they'd watch cars on the porch, and she'd tell him funny stories about his mom, and one day his grandma decided to tell him about the Great Depression and how everyone lived during that time, and it's really heartbreaking to hear about that, and that's where his fear of finances came from. I could still have made the unhealthy decision to be wise with my money and live debt-free while being inspired by her stories to be generous to the down and out and be grateful for all my blessings. And Bandit, his dog, which we mentioned, well, he stayed on that same path with that same pattern for all of his dog years. But you have an opportunity adults don't have due to brain plasticity. You are better able to change your ruts and thought patterns right now than any other time in your life. Know this, unless we decide to break the unhealthy patterns, our lives will continue moving in the wrong direction in a circle that never goes anywhere. It's normal, easy, the same old rut, but I'm guessing you want something different, something better. And in this exercise, it's called recognizing your ruts. And so I'm going to go ahead and go over it a little bit, and it's just like right here, it says my ruts, and it goes on for like half that page and the next. And he wants us to talk about our ruts. So I want you to get yourself a piece of paper and recognize the ruts in your life and how you think you can get out of it. For me, my rut, as I have mentioned earlier, is laziness. And I'm trying to get out of it by moving around more, by doing even the slightest things. And at work, I have been getting out of my laziness by cleaning more at work. Because I feel like that helps me more when I'm doing it not only for myself, but for those around me to get out of the rut. So just like take a minute to think on that, write down your rut, think about your rut and how you can get out of that rut and how you can undevelop that pathway you created. Now, I hope you all have a good night, and I have to go now because I have another Bible study group this evening that I'm going to. So I hope you all have a good evening, a good night, a good morning, whatever time of day it is for you. And I really hope I'm able to do more with this channel, and I'll be able to have more time once I graduate. So I do apologize about not posting for a while. It did hurt me when I started to realize, hey, it's been a while and I need to kind of do this now. So I took time out of my day. It's a shame that we didn't have anyone joining us today, but like I said, everyone's busy, and I can understand that because I have been busy. So, have a good one. I hope you have a good rest of your day, rest of your week, the rest of your life, and I'll see you guys next time.